Behind me is the mountain of success, and reaching the top is what everybody wants. But how do you keep going after you reach the top and the only path forward is down? Which brings up a bigger question. What is the plan for creators after their peak? Because musicians can always go on a reunion tour, but would the algorithm care about a creator's comeback? That is why I finally called up my longtime parasocial mentor, Matt Diabello.
What's going on, man?
He defined the minimalism niche, was a creator on the rise, and inspired tons of people like me to become creators ourselves. And then he peaked.
I found myself trying to climb the same mountain again, where I'm trying to get back to 2019 when my channel was just like to the moon and I had 20 videos in a row that hit 1 million views, and it felt so pointless. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to just get more views? I've been there. I've been on that mountain. It's fine.
But the peak isn't the problem. It's how fast you're trying to get there, which feels really important to mention here, because most creator advice tells you to move fast. But Matt shared with me why he's betting on moving slow. So let's look at the reality behind the content to find out what success looks like after you reach the top. All right, Matt, I'm so excited to have this conversation. You played a really big part in me going into this YouTube content creator direction. And so that's why I'm really excited to sit down with you today and chat about your evolution as a creator and maybe what other people can learn from it.
Yeah, and like I said just before we started recording here, this has been a long time coming. We've chatted so much over the years, and you were such an influential part to the community in the beginning. That is cool. Is this actually the first time that we're having a conversation?
We had a conversation at some point. Yeah.
I feel like we've definitely connected way too much for us to have never met, but it was probably about like 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to jump right into the deep end because a lot of people know you either as a minimalist creator or cinematic creator, but like as a successful creator, I think we can agree on. But what I'm curious to hear from you is, when do you think your YouTube career started? When did this turn into something real?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think my YouTube career officially started. It has to start with the first video you upload. And I think it's because that's the first time. I mean, I didn't really identify as a YouTube creator for my first upload. At that time, I thought I was just going to be a podcaster. I was modeling like other shows and podcasts that I liked. I thought my podcast was going to be the thing that took off.
Interesting.
I saw other people, obviously like Joe Rogan, Lewis Howes, they were doing video. Nobody else was really doing video. And I didn't see anybody who was doing it in a cinematic way. So I was like, well, I may not be the most articulate. I may not be the best interviewer, but I have this background in filmmaking and cinematography. Let me bring that to podcasting, which, I think for what it's worth, obviously I was earlier on that trend. Now, obviously, you can't start a podcast without doing video now, but I just don't think it necessarily suited my skills to be a breakout in terms of a podcast. It obviously did somewhat well, but it was also mainly off of the back of my YouTube channel, which became the main thing. But I would say, I think for anybody who's getting started out on their journey, I think you officially become a YouTuber when you click publish. Because that's that first video. I remember, I was in my apartment and it was, I think maybe a 2-minute video. It was around 1 minute and 17 seconds. And it was just me being like, hi, I'm a filmmaker. I made this documentary, Minimalism, and I do client work, but now I'm doing YouTube and I'm not really sure where this is going to go, which is this is what I recommend now for people who are just getting started out and making their first YouTube video. Forget about just don't overthink it and think you have to make this highly cinematic 20-minute Vox style video. Just have fun, talk about who you are, whatever you can do to get over that hump and press publish, I think is one of the most important steps. Now, I probably didn't at the time see myself as a YouTuber then. It probably wasn't until, I was really experimenting the early days. I was doing a little bit of vlogs. I was doing vacation videos. I didn't really know what my thing was going to be. And then I uploaded a video called My Minimalist Apartment, which was, and this is like 3 minutes long. Like people think like, oh, you need to make a really long video to break through. But like the videos that I think looking back made the biggest impact for me were really short. And so I uploaded this 3 minute
Interesting.
video, which was just an apartment tour. And it was the first video that got, I think, over 1,000 views. And then it got 10,000, then 100,000. And then eventually it was my first video to break 1 million views. It wasn't as important that it hit 1 million views. But what was important is that I saw that it resonated, both the subject matter and the style and the humor and my writing, everything that went into it. While it's not my greatest work by any stretch, it allowed me to start to see a vision and a gateway to what I could create on YouTube. And that's when I was like, oh, maybe I can be a YouTuber. Maybe if I redefine and reformat and figure out a way to replicate this kind of success in this video, I can start to reach more people and make more meaningful videos.
It's super interesting that you bring up the podcast as kind of your starting point, as you thought you're going to be a podcaster, but then it's this 3 minute video that like really shaped who you have become. How did you navigate that shift? Like, did you at some point was like, well, I guess this podcast thing is not really what I should be doing, or did you try to make it work for a while?
Oh yeah, I tried to make it work for a while. I tried to make it work longer than like much further on than when my YouTube channel started to take off. I think one of the mistakes that I've made, and I think a lot of creators make, is that they have a hard time letting go of things. Even if you're having wild success in another format, you're like, well, I have to keep doing this other thing because I said I was going to keep doing it. Because people expect it from me. Because I see comments and I see that people really like it and get value from it. So my podcast was the Ground Up Show. I talked with other creators and people about how they started on their journey, and filmmakers, writers, like everything in between. And my YouTube channel started to take off. I was creator on the rise. I had hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And I started to make money through Patreon and like monetize my work for the first time. And so all that was happening. And it was like so much work. Early on, at the very beginning, the first few months, I was trying to do 2 videos per week. And then I was also trying to do a podcast every week. And so doing all that yourself, trying to find new interviews, everything was in person. It just was burning me out. And the pressure of even every YouTube video at that point was so much pressure. Like it's kind of wild going from producing videos for 1,000 people to all of a sudden, when I upload, I know I'm going to at least get 100,000 people that watch it. My podcasts weren't doing those kind of numbers, but it was just the thing that I felt like I had to keep doing because I said I was going to do it. And I think eventually what happened was I hired a company to help start editing the podcast. And then because my hands weren't in it as much, I started caring about it less. And I was like, I don't really care to like manage this as like a project and like as a funnel. It wasn't making any money. I was not liking the format and like the interview format as much. I find just finding new interviews, just that treadmill of like trying to get new guests, you get rejected so much. Even as I was like,
Mm-hmm.
my YouTube channel was taking off, it was still like I was getting, people were turning me down left and right. People still turn me down heaps now when I try to do interviews, or reach out to people through Instagram or whatever. And like, while rejection is important, and I think you have to do those things to get over it, it was like, it just felt like it was pulling my attention away from the thing that was gaining the most momentum at the time. And so kind of getting my hands off of it allowed me to refocus my efforts on YouTube. And I think that was, in hindsight, the best decision I could have made. I think from a business perspective, podcasts are tough unless you really love it. Like I wouldn't recommend anybody start a podcast because they think they're going to get rich. I would just do it because you get to connect with awesome people. It's a great excuse to have conversations. And if you really enjoy it, that's great. But I think a YouTube channel is like allowed me to express myself creatively, and it allowed me to build a sustainable creator business at the same time.
Lots of good stuff in there. Lots of threads I want to pull on, but let's explore this area because, like, yeah, you were a creator on the rise. I feel like, at least from my perspective, you brought minimalism, I feel like, into the popular conversation, and I'm pretty sure you popularized the cinematic YouTube videos. How do you feel about that looking back? Like, do you think this is true from your perspective? And how did you develop this style?
I think that yes. Yeah. It's not a very humble answer, but I'm like, I do see like the impact that my videos did make. And I think when I started to see people copying me and literally copying my thumbnails, or I mean, there was one YouTuber, I'm not going to mention his name, who would steal my thumbnails, my ideas, my titles, and my scripts word for word, and then
Wow.
shot for shot would replicate the entire thing. And he had hundreds of thousands of subscribers. It wasn't an English speaking channel, so it was only somebody that reached out to me that I wouldn't have known if somebody didn't reach out and say, hey, this guy's stealing your videos. I'm sure he saw other people's stuff too, but like it was like to see other people copy your stuff and your style. That was really the first time I realized, oh, I have a style. There's something that I do differently that other people aren't doing. I think that it did exist in some form or another. I mean, I came from the documentary world, so I was doing what I was doing with documentaries. I was just bringing it to YouTube. Other people were making high quality cinematic videos. Peter McKinnon had blown up a year or two before I started on YouTube. And so he was one of the first big ones that was like bringing this kind of cinematic approach. But I think you only really saw it in the filmmaking world on YouTube in that
Hmm.
niche or niche, depending
Yeah.
on who you talk to. And so I think it was like, and what I saw too was like, hey, if you're a doctor, if you can learn how to tell amazing stories, you could build a huge YouTube channel. I had interest in minimalism and self-development, things that I could, make videos about, which was, I think it was the combination of the two, the filmmaking and this new thing that in the past people weren't making videos about. Like people would make videos about taking cold showers for 30 days. And I saw a few of them beforehand. Nathaniel Drew actually did, he was around the same time and he was making cinematic videos in a very similar way. He did a cold shower video before I did a cold shower video. But apart from us and a couple other people, most of the videos at the time, if you were to look up cold showers for 30 days, it was somebody talking about their experience. It wasn't somebody documenting their experience. Certainly not documenting it in like a really cinematic way where you have a cold open to me jumping into a cold shower the first time. And then I'm doing an interview with somebody and I'm documenting this progress and showing shower number 11, 20, 28, and 30. And like, talking about my experience going through it. This is something that is just very, very popular now on YouTube. I think what I'm proud of is that I was able to package these videos in a way that weren't overly clickbait. Yeah, I had some of the dumb like surprise face thumbnails that like, I don't, for whatever reason, I think they help it. Maybe they don't. But a lot of times it was just like I quit social media for 30 days. I remember at the time being like, this is just so opposite to how everybody else is trying to get attention. Like there's all caps in titles. It's
Hmm.
even more extreme than just like a surprise face. And so I think I was able to actually stand out by making my thumbnails, my titles, and my videos simpler than what was online at the time. Where that style came from, it's like very, very early on, it was like getting inspired and like copying other people. There's this guy, Steve Bogda, who I went to high school with. He was a year above me. And he was like an amazing cinematographer and filmmaker. And he would just make these videos of him filming in his backyard. And so I was like, oh, like the first thing I did when I bought a camera was just shoot video in my backyard. And I think that's like what you do when you're just learning. It's just like trying to copy and replicate what other people are doing. And then over time, you start to develop your own style and taste and what makes you unique compared to somebody else. But it's really only, I think, in looking back that you start to see like, oh, I guess, yeah, I was doing something a little bit different then.
You mentioned something interesting here. Like, on the one hand, you had success, you found your niche, and people come up copying what you do. And the common YouTube advice is just go out there and see what's working and basically make the exact same video, right?
Mm,
Like, copying is like the shortcut to success. And I mean, in a way, you said, yeah, just like take your camera and kind of try to replicate what inspires you. How do you navigate this situation of people taking your work, everything becoming the same, learning from people by copying, but not just like making a one-to-one copy? It's a
yeah,
very broad, difficult, like, topic, but I'm kind of curious on your perspective.
that's such a good question. And I'm glad that you asked it because like now at the point where I'm at, it's like copying a trend. And like you see it now, you go on Instagram and like you watch somebody's video and you're like, wow, that's so funny. That's such an original take. And then you scroll 3 times and then you see the exact same trend and you're like, oh,
Yes.
that person wasn't original. That person was probably copying somebody else. It's impossible to know who came up with the idea originally because there is so much copying happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't have a perfect answer to this. Part of it is like, I think what is definitely okay is copying and not publishing, if like you're just getting your
Mm-hmm.
chops in and getting your reps in. And I think that's what I was doing in those early days. It was like, I mean, nobody cared about that backyard video. I might have posted it on Vimeo, but it
Sure.
got 3 views. Like I wasn't using it to try to hack into a trend to try to get views. I think it probably comes down to the intention behind it. If you are copying just because you're like trying to squeeze your way into the algorithm or get more views or get more likes, it's like, everybody's got their own prerogative in terms of why they're creating. But I think like creators who love the art and love the craft and are doing it from a place not just of trying to grow and not just trying to get as many views as possible or get attention by any means. I think that those are the kind of people that also want to find meaning in the work that they do. They want to tell an interesting story. Like they want to be original. I don't think like real creators want to just copy somebody else for the sake of copying. I think they want to, have something to say that's unique and that helps other people on their own path. So, but yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I think like if you were like, let's say you have 0 followers on Instagram or YouTube and you're just getting started out and you're going to start heavily pulling inspiration from other people just because you're having such a hard time knowing it's so hard to like get started, like from writing, filming, editing, like all this entire part of the production process, let alone like the marketing, writing titles and thumbnails. It's like really, really challenging. Forget about AI. Like you can look at what other people are doing though. You can start to pull inspiration, but as much as humanly possible, try to source and credit the other humans that were involved that inspired you. Because I think we can all build upon each other's work, but we should credit people when you did get inspiration, when a certain idea came to you, when a certain shot that you saw in somebody else's video. Like, how can we credit and acknowledge the other artists that were the first ones that helped come up with this idea? I think that is a key to not just outright stealing somebody else's work.
The other thing you mentioned there about a real creator wants to be known for their original work or wants to have something to say, right? I think that is a core shift that happened over the last 10 years. I feel like the 2016 YouTube, first of all, YouTube was the space to be a creator. That wasn't even a word then. And everything else was just like social media. But like you made videos that you wanted to make. And if you got lucky, you got some views, you got some attention, and that allowed you to monetize through advertisements or Patreon or something like that. And I feel like now it's almost flipped where
Yes.
it's like, let's make a business and then let's make content. We're not making videos anymore. We're making content to drive revenue for the business. And I don't think those people care about being original or anything. They just like care about maximizing views and yes, generating revenue. And that's a core question I'm trying to figure out because like as a independent solo creator who cares about the craft, does it still make sense to produce original work? Is this still a space for us, or is there maybe somewhere else? Or, there again, a very open-ended question. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about this with somebody who found success in the traditional creator model, I'm gonna call it?
Yeah, I think you're completely right that the shift happened when people started to clock on that attention equaled money, attention equaled
Yes.
revenue or profit. Like once that started to click over for people, they're like, oh, and people started being like, look how much money I made this year. I made $7
Mhm.
million this year. They're like, oh shit, like you can make some real money on YouTube.
Yes.
That is naturally going to pull in the sharks, so to speak. The people that don't care about creation or craft. That's always going to happen, I guess. I think it's important to try to marry the two together. I mean, if all you care about is the craft, then and you didn't care about the money at all, you would never hit publish. You would just make something. I mean, maybe you would host some in-person events and bring some friends together. And I think that's a beautiful expression of creativity, and people still do that, believe it or not. But I think that also, we're publishing things because yes, we want to connect with people, but we want to make this sustainable. We do want to make money. And I think every creator has their own opinion on what's the right way to do that for them. Like how do you want to approach content creation and commerce and making money? I wish I didn't have to, do an advertisement in every video, but I spend a month, sometimes 3 months working on a single video, spending 40, 50, 60 hours sometimes on a single video. I got to get paid. Like I gotta get paid for my time. And I think people are totally fine with it. People understand that's part of what it means to be a YouTube creator. There are other ways to do it. Like at the end of the day, like either you're getting contributions from people, or you're, doing advertising, or you're making your own products and selling it. Otherwise, it's just a charity and you're putting out videos for free. And I think that it is about figuring out like how to figure out the business side of things to make it sustainable so you can keep creating videos and enjoying the process. But I think also like, when you have all these people that are out there that are just optimizing for the clicks and the views, it's easy to say this, having somebody who has had success through this, like it's harder for people that like, I think maybe haven't found the success yet, but it's like, those people are always going to be there. And I do think that when you are bringing yourself into it and you are honest and genuine and as authentic as you can possibly be in front of a camera, I think those traits will help you stand out when everybody's kind of shouting from the rooftops. I mean, Life of Riza, great example. Somebody who's been able to pave her way, making really beautiful cinematic videos. She did something completely different in kind of the self-development space that nobody was doing. And she also, makes money while doing it as well. And so there are a lot of examples of other people as well who've been able to break through while being true to themselves, while being authentic. And you can tell because they're not relying as heavily on the hacks and the tactics. By the way, I have to say, great questions.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
really thoughtful, really, really good questions. They're helping me to start to think about some of these ideas in a deeper way. Because I do think it's not just black and white. Like some people try to make it seem a lot simpler than it is, where it's like, don't do hacks, don't do trends, don't follow XYZ advice. Experiment with it. Try different things. See what works for you.
I mean, that's the core problem with the whole YouTube advice genre. It's like everybody has an answer for you and you just follow this plan and it works out. Except that, yes, and the opposite is also true. And also you can try something yourself and figure out what you enjoy making.
People seem a little bit too confident in the YouTube space, don't you think? Like everybody seems like, because confidence sells. And like when they tell you, I know exactly what's going to get you from here to there, then it'll sell more. And I know, like I sell a course too. And like you have to make certain promises and guarantees to kind of get people over the edge. But man, in the content today, it's just like, I'm seeing too much confidence because I've been doing this for 10 years. And sometimes I'm constantly surprised by videos. I upload a video and I'm like, I thought that was going to do better. Or, oh my God, that just took off. That social media video got 2 million views. That was not supposed to happen. Like we're constantly surprised. And if I'm surprised, I'm sure that these YouTube strategists are surprised as well.
Quick aside here, because when Matt said the questions I asked helped him think through things more clearly, that really stood out to me. Because it's basically the work I enjoy doing most with creators. Instead of giving some magical YouTube blueprint, I love to sit down together and ask better questions about what you're building, what is actually working, and what would make this more sustainable in the long run. So if you are a creator who feels like you would benefit from this kind of conversation, I do offer a few number of private content strategy sessions, and I would love to help you see the bigger picture. There's a link for it down in the description if you want to check it out. Now let's get back to Matt. Let's continue a little bit on your journey, because as we said, steep rise to the top of YouTube. Everybody knows your name, 3 million subscribers. And then you had to take a break, or there was this like phase of all the YouTubers quitting, but you also came back from that. First of all, why did you come back to YouTube after taking a break? And how do you make sure you can do this for, I don't know what your horizon is, but let's just call it for another 10 years?
Oh, I was going to say at least another 3 months. I would say, yeah, that's a good question. I'll give a little bit of context if you hadn't heard about kind of that part of my journey. But I took the typical route, which I think when you grow a big YouTube channel, when you hit 1 million subscribers, you do, which is to start to hire people. Everybody's like, you got to hire an editor, you got to hire a writer, you got to hire a producer. And so I hired all those people, hired a social media manager, built a course, hired a community manager. I ended up, at one point, I think I had about like 8 employees at one time. Plus, I was working with we were working like 10 freelancers, just here and there, hodgepodge. And so you're dealing with a web of about 10 to 20 employees / freelancers at any time. And one, I think that was a huge mistake for me. Like the big irony is that my company was called Slow Growth, as you know, and I just like hired 6 people in 1 week or in 2 months, I think it was. And so I just went way too fast. To my credit, I was just really excited, and I was like, "This is amazing! Like, let's grow, let's bring more people on." I was really excited about the opportunity, and then I started to find myself managing more and more and enjoying the craft much less. I think I look back and I think those are probably some of my worst videos. It was the videos where I'm just like, gotta make a Squarespace video. Oh, my deadline again. All right, let me just whip something up real quick. And so I wasn't giving each video the time that it needed. And I think one of the reasons that my channel took off in the first place was because I set an expectation with every video. It's like, I just realized early on, that's why I stopped actually having my podcast be a part of my main channel, because I realized every upload is an expectation to deliver to the audience. And if they didn't know whether it was going to be a podcast or a long form video or a 3-minute video apartment tour or just a talking head video, then that expectation would start to kind of fall apart. And so some people get away with doing many different formats on their channel. I found I just wanted to make every single video as good as I possibly could make it. I wanted to make it worth somebody's time and attention. And that quality started to go down as I started to hire more people and focus less and less on each video. And I just never got into a groove. And so I hired all these people, and then I'm like, this is just, I eventually had to scale back and had to let everybody go. And around that same time, so I became a solo creator. And then within a few months, I had my first kid. And our first son, Frankie, just changed our life in the best way possible. Also, that first 10 months was abject hell. Like, it's the thing that you're not supposed to say about the first year of parenting, but it was just the hardest. Like, I'd done a lot of 30-day experiments. There was nothing like this. And it just rocked me. And a big part of that for us was just unfortunately, our son just did not sleep very well. And so I and Natalie, my wife, she got way more sleep than me. And I don't know how she made it through, but both of us were hanging on by a thread within, that 10-month period where he was waking up 10 to 20 times a night. So basically, we had gotten to the place where I was not burnt out from work. I was burnt out and depressed from a lack of sleep. And so we had fixed these sleep problems at around 10 months. We started sleeping through the night for the first, we went 10 months without sleeping through the night. And so it was the first time I started to rebuild. But at that point, I had already gone so far that I was just I could not make a video. I had completely lost the joy. It was the combination of scaling this team and becoming a parent and having no sleep that I was just I just had lost my sense of purpose and the reason why I did it. There was no joy in anything I was making. It got to the point where I had to upload a Squarespace video. I had the whole video edited. I had everything lined up, all the B-roll. I just had to film the parts with me on camera. And I had 2 days to do it. And I was like, I just can't do this. I cannot. I was so depressed. I was like, I cannot turn on the camera and, hey, everybody. Not that I talk like that, but it's I can't pretend that everything's okay. And so then I was just messaged Squarespace and I was like, I'm super depressed. I need to take an indefinite break from YouTube. I ended up taking 8 months off from uploading a video. And it was like I slowly inched my way back. I started writing. I just went to a cafe and just like dumped all my thoughts onto the page. That was the first act of creation after taking a break. And that came maybe a month or two after. And that was just journaling, stream of thought, things I was going through, things I was feeling. And then I started like documenting. I started like a bonus channel, which was documenting behind the scenes stuff. It was more vloggy. It was kind of more 2016 YouTube, like just off the
Mm-hmm.
cuff. And like it actually allowed me to rediscover a part of creation that I love and that I've taken a break from that, but I'm going to get back into it soon. I just love being able to create for a smaller audience without this huge expectation. Like the expectations, great for the audience. Sometimes as a creator, it boxes you in and makes you feel like your voice becomes two dimensional and you can't actually let your guard down and be yourself. Like you have to deliver in a certain way every single time. And so it was just taking those baby steps towards creating again. And I think in coming back, I have had moments, after taking this 8 month break from YouTube where I've found myself trying to climb the same mountain again, where I'm trying to get back to 2019 when my channel was just like to the moon and I was just
Mm-hmm.
like getting 100,000 subscribers every month and videos were going viral left and right. I had 20 videos in a row that hit 1 million views. Like I found myself trying to get to that point, but not knowing why. It was just felt so empty and it felt so pointless. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to just get more views? I've been there. I've been on that mountain. It's fine. Like, it's great. It's the money's great and all that. But I'm like, it's not actually making me fulfilled. And there was a lot of stuff during the initial climb up the mountain that wasn't pretty. That was like the anxiety and the burnout and the pressure and my lack of a personal life. And now as a parent, I just didn't have the time. Even if I wanted to climb that mountain again, it's not the season for me to do it. And so then I think I started to kind of pull back and be like, all right, how much is enough? Like, if I want to sustainably do this for a long period of time, how many videos is enough? I think as like an OG YouTuber, for some reason, the number in the back of my mind was always, you have to make one video a week to be a YouTuber.
Yes.
If you do not make one video a week, then you're not a YouTuber. And the game has changed so much. I think like maybe back in the day that was a relevant metric and it helped you stay consistent and it helped, other creators or other consumers, people who watch your videos have a better idea of when to expect to hear from you. It almost becomes a routine or a habit. But things have changed a lot and there are a lot of examples out there of people who make one video per month or less who have big channels. I did an audit of like all the channels I follow, the biggest channels on YouTube, smaller channels. And I just found that people created anywhere from one video per month or maybe a little bit less to 70 or 80 videos per year. That just gave me confidence to say I can make as many or as few videos as I want now, like being in a privileged position where I know I'm going to get a couple 100,000 views likely on every video. I can do one a month and that's totally fine. And that allows me to put more into each video to make each video really great. The thing that I'm trying to prove out now is that you can start that way. So I'm trying to
Interesting.
compile evidence and examples of people who've been able to do that. I'm in the middle of this research right now. I
Okay.
know there are a few examples of it. Life of Riza, who I mentioned, she's somebody who was able to grow her channel to 1 million subscribers, making less than one video per month and taking big long breaks in between seasons. So I think that it's possible. I think it's challenging in its own ways, but for me in the position that I'm in, that's the easy way to go. And now like whether I ever scale up and produce more content, it can only happen if I find the right partner to bring on to my process to help me because I've reached my bandwidth in terms of what I can create.
The one thing you didn't answer there, or at least not to my satisfaction, is
Yeah.
what brings you back to making videos? Like, do you still have
Yeah.
to make videos, or is it something you just want to do? There's other examples of YouTubers just retiring, right? You could just disappear and have a private life and enjoy that. Why do you come back?
I was talking about this with my wife Nat, and because I'm actually going more towards your route where I'm doing a lot more creator education and also to teach from some of these lessons that I've learned the hard way about, chasing things that don't give you fulfillment in the end, or, going through these cycles of creator burnout, and, what is it all for? To answer your question, why come back to YouTube? The conversation I had with Nat was just really about, like, if you just went this whole route and did just this, creator education, would that be enough? Would you still find yourself itching to tell these long form stories? And I think that I just like telling long form stories. I like coming up with ideas, whether it's a series that I'm working on now about minimalism and kind of what's changed over the past 10 years, or like now I'm actually just focusing more on the things I enjoy, like making espresso for 30 days, doing powerlifting for 100 days. Like there's no strategy there. I'm just fortunate that I could make videos on anything that I want, and I'm going to have like a pretty good portion of my audience that are like, cool, I want to see Matt make espresso, or I want to see Matt try out powerlifting. Those things, like, I'm just doing for the joy. It pushes me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have done, and it allows me to learn and grow. I think for me, any video that I make right now, I have to learn, I have to grow. I cannot just repeat some lesson that I already have learned before, especially when it comes to like the self-development world. Will I stick it out on YouTube for another 10 years? I don't know. Probably not. Only like I find it is just hard it's hard doing long form content and making it sustainable if you have other interests and other passions and things that you're excited about. Like if I wanted to make another course, or, I'm working on a digital product right now, doing all of that stuff and all the business and stuff that I find exciting and fun to learn about, it takes away from my main YouTube videos. And so I'm slowly inching back towards like scaling up, and I'm currently hiring. But I'm just trying to take it really, 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 really slow. And, but yeah, it's like I make the YouTube videos because that's like, I love telling stories. But I like, if I'm being 100% honest, it's like sometimes it's just like feels like a job. And I'm like, oh, I just got to hit these deadlines. Like I've got a deadline in 7 days for my next video. I've got it 70% written, but I'm like, if I could just kick
Ooh.
that another month, I would. I'd be like, oh, like I just need more time with this. And so I think sometimes deadlines, they're good to help motivate you and keep you going. And sometimes I'd rather not. I'd rather just have more space.
The question I'm interested in is, do you see a difference between the people that kind of stay in the game, that are able to do this for an extended period of time, versus the people that just like go viral and disappear, or never even make it to like a level where this can turn into an income stream?
This is probably a boring answer, but I think the difference between, for most people and for creators who love the craft, rather than people who are doing it for a business or just to make money, that can certainly, keep people motivated for forever. People are motivated to make
Yeah.
money, and some people, like, they could do it their entire life if that's the only reason why they do YouTube. But for me, and for people like me who are creators who love the craft, who can't just outsource their entire production process, cannot outsource their writing or their filming, their editing, they have to be a part of the process. If you do not find joy in the process, if you're not excited about the videos you're making, if you're not finding fulfillment from them, learning something, growing, then I do not think you're going to be able to keep going with it. I mean, you look at some of the biggest YouTubers out there, and they're constantly evolving and they're growing and they're changing, because it would probably get really boring to stay completely still and keep doing the same thing. And I think that's probably what leads a lot of people to quit, where you're just like, well, I've made the money, I've got the views, but it's like, what's the point? What's the point to keep going if you don't enjoy it?
Good, solid advice. But to round this out with everything we talked about, with your rise to fame, everything you have achieved, and where you are now, what does success actually look like for you?
Success to me is just showing up, making cool things with people I like to hang out with and spending as much time with my family as I can. Like can't envision a world where I could be any more successful, and that's not because of the views or the subscribers. It's because I can do what I love every day, and I get to spend a whole lot of time with my family. Yeah, I am so lucky. Like I cannot imagine a world where things would have worked out better. I think there was obviously a lot of valleys in there, and if I know anything, there's going to be a lot of valleys to come. But I think it's I'm proud of the journey that I went on, and yeah, I'm excited to keep building from here and climb new mountains.
Now, as always, there's an extended version of this conversation over on the Patreon, the Creator Trust Club. There, we also have a call once a month where we talk about the reality behind the content. If that sounds interesting to you, the link for that is down in the description, and I really hope to see you there.
I should say thank you, just for like being so supportive in the community. Like you held the community together for years when I was just too busy, and I unfortunately didn't have enough time, and was pulled in a million directions trying to grow my business probably too quickly. So thank you for just being such an amazing presence over the years. And it was, I think you really helped to hold things together and really create a sense of community there. So I appreciate you. I feel like I owe you some money as well for all the work that you've done.